hunger and starvation. That shows the responsibility that we have for our neighbors. Even our neighbors have a right. They should not go hungry and starve to death if we have the means to help them. Yeah? So you can see the responsibility that we have. Islam provides this standard of living, the standard of interaction, the standard of behavior between all the creation. Because you've already designed.
So what? We don't need to anymore. Even if we can eat animals.
Okay.
You make it.
Yeah, but why use an animal for an unnecessary reason?
So further, so your argument. So your
argument. Be healthy
argument.
about using animals.
Okay. So your
You can't be
argument.
healthy about using animals.
Your argument is no longer that we are designed or not. Yes, we are designed, but we don't. In fact,
How would you feel if you were that animal?
let me put this argument forward. You shouldn't be eating plants at all. No animals, no plants. Evolve. Go into one step further. Don't eat plants at all. Maybe they have a little bit of pain experience. Don't eat plants and fruits and vegetables. Next step. What are you going to do? What are you going to eat?
You're going to die.
Ah, you're going to die. So you're going to be merciless, ruthless, eating vegetable to make you survive.
Yeah, of course.
What a selfish reason, Brad.
No, it's not.
Okay,
That's necessary.
Okay, so now you're saying if it's necessary, it's okay.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah?
Well, that's
Okay.
how we live. Right?
Okay, it's necessary to eat plants.
Yeah.
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 So you're fine with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we find that we can actually have animals and
Are those They are. Okay, I've never seen them.
they're not leeches.
Yeah. Go on.
Please go
Yeah.
on.
So the question about necessity, eating. So you don't want to eat any animals, right?
We don't want to use animals.
Oh, it's not about eating now, but you like your
About use.
burgers.
It's about use.
Okay.
We shouldn't use them. We shouldn't treat them as objects
Okay.
of property.
So in fact, we agree a lot in terms of not exploiting them, not overeating them. And, yeah.
Just not exploiting.
But you're not exploiting them.
Yeah.
I agree with you. We shouldn't be exploiting them. But in terms of research, the reason why I think it's necessary
You
is
mean like medical research?
medical research. If you don't do experiments in animals, your options is not computer simulations.
Right.
Because they do not simulate the real environment a diseased body of a human being is.
Right.
So a healthy volunteer, even so if they were to volunteer, and they're very unlikely to volunteer because you won't find healthy volunteers.
Or you can pay them. Medical trials.
Oh, that's okay, that's justified?
You know, that's voluntary. That's voluntary. They're just getting paid for it.
Right, so you're saying if
They're
somebody...
consenting. They're consenting to it.
Humans
So-
can give
The
consent.
animals in
Animals can't.
laboratories
So if
are not.
someone-
They can't give consent.
Okay, I didn't understand this argument. If someone consents to be tortured, it's okay.
Of course. It's up to them.
It's consent made.
Yeah.
So basically,
I don't
your
know why they
argument
would.
is not about torture then. If a monkey were able to consent, you'd be okay with it.
Yeah. But they can't give consent. Animals can't give consent.
Yeah, so basically, it's nothing to do with torture itself as a
It's about
concept.
consent. Yeah.
It's about consent.
Consent to use them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want you to think this carefully.
Go ahead.
You've moved away from this feeling of sympathy or empathy to other creation, whether it's an animal or a plant, away from all of this. So it's not about feelings anymore. It's about, yeah, this guy's consenting to be shot at in his head. It's okay. That's his choice, or her choice. Do you see that?
Sorry, say that again.
You've moved away from this feeling. You've divorced your feeling that is driven you to say, look, it's unnecessary, it's unjust. Unjust is...
You agree with?
But what you're doing is, you've moved away from this. So basically...
No, we haven't.
And it's nothing to
You
do
have
with
no
empathy, by the
feelings.
way. It's nothing to do with empathy or compassion.
Yeah.
It's just a basic level of respect.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
respect you. I'm not going to harm you.
Respect. So your respect is not to do with how people feel pain and suffer. Your concept of respect is, as long as they get paid and they're consenting, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally up to them.
So now that's all. Now you're saying is it's all about greed. It's all about money. It's all about your own consent of how you abuse your own self.
The fact of the matter is, animals are innocent. They've done nothing wrong.
Humans.
And we
Humans. Let's talk about
Animals.
humans. The humans that consent to be tortured, you have no problem with that.
because they agree to it.
Yeah. So
I'm not them, I can't choose for them.
So let's understand something. If a human is agreeing to be raped, you have no problem with that?
I'd find it questionable. But at least they're giving
If they're,
consent.
if they're
How
giving
is it?
consent
It's
to be
not
raped.
It's not consent if they're consenting
no,
to
no,
be
no,
raped.
Consent, and we're fine with that.
Listen.
That's an oxymoron. Rape can never happen without consent.
It's difficult, but if a person blanketly said, okay, that's fine, and then everyone,
Well, some
violates
people are
her.
into really rough sex. So what?
Yeah, that's not about rough sex. It's just a concept. I mean, okay, mutilation of the body. Chop me off in pieces. And you're saying as long as it's okay, they're consenting, it's okay.
Well, it's up
They
to them.
consent to it. Yeah.
Do you see
not
the
my
problem
body,
with
it's
that?
theirs.
Like it, I would ask them why. Why do you want to harm yourself? But
Yeah, but you're okay with it. That is why I bring you back to the question that I was trying to address is, as human beings, we should live our life according to the best standards. If you are trying to put forward a standard where don't do things unnecessarily and unjustly, agree. But what? To everything.
To every sentient being.
Everything.
Every
Look,
sentient being, not everything.
Look.
Sentient being.
If you cut the flow of water to a land which is fertilized by the water, I consider this to be unjust. But you are saying it's not a sentient being. Land is not sentient. What if it becomes dry and millions of people die because of starvation afterwards because of the drought? I would say, look, your way of thinking and my way of thinking. My way of thinking is I'm trying to use my way of thinking from Islam. Islam says, look after yourself, look after the environment, look after your fellow beings. So if
when you say beings,
look after the fellow environment. Beings means your animals. Maybe you two examples. Yeah, one with the human being and one with the animals. So when we eat animals, chicken or a cow or a sheep,
Or a dog
whatever,
or a
right?
cat in
We don't
other
eat dogs.
countries.
We don't eat dogs and cats.
Well, some
There
people do.
Some people do. There are certain things we eat, certain things we don't eat, and there is a reason for it. But in general, when we say we want to eat these things, we can't just eat them. We take the life away with the permission of God that God has given us, only with the permission of God. We say Bismillah,
Can I ask you
Allahu
a
Akbar.
question? Can I ask you a question?
Can I finish this 2
ahead.
points and then you can ask, right? So the life that we take away is with the permission of God. But how do we take a life? For example, when we slaughter these animals, when we slaughter, right? We don't slaughter in front of another animal because we know they understand. Yes, we know when they see, they experience this and they feel, and you can see how they react. And we want to slaughter them in a way which is most merciful way, so they don't experience the pain.
So
That's
animals
why.
are worthy of moral consideration then.
That's not the question about morality here. The
No,
question
but you
about
are
mercy. So when we slaughter them in the most merciful way with the permission of God.
But they have an interest in living.
You see, I'm just putting forward one argument about showing the mercy. Second, about human beings. If, for example, I am wealthy enough to sustain my life with food, and my neighbor goes hungry and starves to death, our Prophet ﷺ said that I am not even a believer. I'm not even a believer in Islam, in his prophethood. That a believing person, that he is fully fed and his neighbor goes hungry in starvation. That shows the responsibility that we have for our neighbors. Even our neighbors have a right. They should not go hungry and starve to death if we have the means to help them. Yeah? So you can see the responsibility that we have. Islam provides this standard of living, the standard of interaction, the standard of behavior between all the creation. So one, I showed you about the animals, and I showed you about the dead land, and the water flowing, dry land, yeah, and about the animals. We have to be living in a way which is, something that is best standards of living. So this is what we're trying to invite you to, that if you look at your way of living, you are always constantly trying to live a life which is noble, which is peaceful, which is just, which is humane, which is merciful. You're trying to live your life as the best way of living, right? Experience. These living standards can either come from our experiences, and we make errors in our experience as we learn, or it can come from God through his prophets and messengers. What we are saying is, God the Creator has given us the standards of living throughout the ages, through the prophets and messengers, and the last prophet being Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we can perfect the nobility of our character. And this is what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was raised. One of the main reasons he says, "بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق." I have raised to perfect and raised to perfection the nobility of the character. You are noble, but you can perfect this character of yours. And this is what Islam does. Islam is not about, you just having some kind of cultish living. It's a living where it's the best way of living in relation to your creator and your purpose. So you're fulfilling your purpose, and you are... Excellent question. What is the purpose of your lung?
My lungs to breathe.
Your ears, balance and hearing. So we have purposes. What is the purpose of every organs of your body? Seems to quite clearly have functions and purposes that are not set by you and me. As a whole, what is the purpose that is not set by you and me?
The purpose that is not set by you and me, but set by the Creator.
It has to be something that we haven't set. So we need to know what it is. So ultimately...
Technically it's to breed. So technically it's to breed.
What if someone's sterile? They have no purpose in life?
No. I don't think our purpose is to breed. I don't think we should breed. There's too many humans.
Yeah. So you've answered your one question. The purpose of life is not just to breed. Okay? This is maybe something that is something natural progression of life. So life continues through this process of offspring. But that's not the purpose. Some people don't have children. That doesn't mean they have no purpose, and that's it.
I'm not going to have children.
I'm sure you will.
I won't.
Okay, let's leave that discussion for another time. What we say is the purpose of our creation, of our existence here, we cannot determine ourselves.
Yeah.
Because all of our determination will be subjective. The only way we can know is when the Creator tells us what's the purpose of our creation. So in the Quran, our Creator tells us our purpose of creation is to worship.
Worship who?
Worship our Creator.
I would like to know how is it the only way to know how we are created? How is it
The only way to know our purpose, because we will have all these ideas.
How is it the only way? You have to spoke
Okay, our purpose is to breed. This is one example, right? Is that the only and
This is the only
purpose?
conclusive evidence we can get from the evidence. Apart from it,
Is that the purpose?
No, this is the only conclusive purpose of life, not just our life, the whole life.
I'm saying this
We
is
can get
this is just
through
a
evidence,
process.
through evidence, through evidence.
Yeah, but that may not be the purpose. That's how it is.
What other purpose, whatever other purpose there is, there has to be an evidence for it. Otherwise, there's no need to believe in it.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, life progresses through this procreation. It seems to me this is how the system is of life, of living creatures. You don't teach animals to procreate. It's already built in. It's already built in. Natural processes, right? But it's not the purpose. If something is already built in, it doesn't tell you what the purpose of this living is.
Well, that is the reason it's built in, because this is the only reason it's built in, so that the life can survive.
For what reason? Exactly.
Just to survive.
No. Just to survive is not the reason. Survival is the process.
Do you know what? I think I'm going to let you two carry on. Okay?
Nice talking to you. Have you read the Quran?
I have not. Can I read it online?
You can read it online.
Okay. Is it obviously English translation?
English translation available. Read multiple translations. So what you will see is, if you read in a topical way, what's the concept of God? Our purpose in this life, how we should be living. Prophets. What happens after we die? Is that the end of it? Is there such a thing called justice? And if there is there such a thing called hellfire and paradise? If you understand these concepts first about God, about role of prophethood, about the hereafter, and your purpose in this life, you will see that you will find a direction. And next time we talk, we can have a discussion on that one. Is that okay, Brad?
Mansur? Yeah, take care.
What's your name?
Najib.
Najib. You're a Muslim? What religion are you?
I don't have a religion.
You don't have a religion. Okay. Do you know all this came by a creator or not? You believe in a creator?
I don't know.
You don't believe in a creator. Okay. So what gave us life?
Probably nature process.
We say God gave us life. The creator gave us life.
As is one of many gods.
There are not many gods. There is only one God. If there were many gods, what would we expect?
I would support it by the evidence of so many religions. And
Okay,
if there is not many religions in the world, or if there's one religion, then I would have a strong chance of believing it. But because there's so many religions and so many different gods, I guess probably more than 5,000 gods.
Let's take this a bit rationally, right? If there were more than one God, we can take two to begin with and see what we expect. The concept of God that we have is
We are first assuming some gods or a god exists. Then we are coming
not
into this
assuming.
discussion.
This is the conclusion that we arrive at.
We haven't arrived at a conclusion that whether a god exists or not.
So, do you believe?
But we can look into it first.
Okay.
You can establish that first, and then we can
Fair
come
enough.
back to
Fair enough.
that.
Right. So, to understand the concept of more than one gods and how rational it is,
Rational would be a thing that is
it needs to make sense to you.
your or my rationality,
It needs to make
and
sense to both of us.
not in a rationality of a higher being, right?
It needs to make sense to us, right? Agreed?
Yeah.
It needs to make sense to us. Okay. The concept of God or the creator is such that God is the creator of all this cosmos.
I have a question over here in the beginning. If there's a God or multiple gods exist, does they have to make sense to us rationally?
Everything needs to make sense to us in some degree or another.
According to our rationality, does a God needs to make sense?
Anything in our life, to some degree or another, it has to make sense to us. Otherwise, you might be saying, look, am I awake or not?
It's not.
Are you awake?
No, this is not. I'm not going on that side. I'm just asking a simple question. Like, you're trying to establish about one God or multiple gods.
Yes.
But before we do that, you put a condition that it has to come into our rationality, right?
No, it needs to make sense.
It needs to make sense. It has to be rational, which means according to our rationality, right? So is it a condition? Is it a condition that a God has to satisfy?
It's not God satisfying. It's in our discussion.
But then,
If we are discussing about an external entity outside of ourselves, with you and me, right? Whether this is true.
so if let's say, sorry to interrupt. Let's say that entity, whichever we are trying to explain, if he's in another dimension or he has different powers or ways of working that we don't know, you and I don't know. It might seem unrational to us, right?
But there are
It might
some
be
elements.
the way the God works, right?
But there are some elements that you will have to conclude based on the reality that you see. Yeah?
That is fine, but we cannot then put this condition that God has to satisfy rationality or multiple God has.
No.
God has-
Not God satisfying rationality. We are using our brains to conclude.
So if let's
And
agree on that.
our speculations
why
from
don't we-
this
Why don't we go
thinking,
step-wise?
no, our speculations of what we think God should be or God is going to be will be confirmed by revelation or guidance or messages directly from this God.
The revelation is going to come much later.
Yeah, I say confirmation comes
So
afterwards.
let's do you think is it reasonable to agree that the only way to decide between good and bad or right religion and wrong religion or if there's a religion or not is our rationality and our five senses? Or do we have another thing apart from that?
Let's understand something.
As a
How many,
human-
how
as
many
human,
senses
I'm
do we have?
asking this.
Okay, for us to understand something, conclude something, what are the tools that we have?
I have sense of touch, sense of hearing, seeing,
Yeah,
smelling.
the five senses.
Smelling, five senses.
Anything else?
And a brain to make sense of those.
Sure.
Interpret those signals.
That's all I'm asking. In this discussion, use those to arrive at a sound
Not in just
conclusion.
this discussion. Let's in all aspects of
Of
our
course,
life.
of course.
Because
But
these
in
are the
this
only
discussion-
tools we have, right?
Exactly.
So if I 100% agree that these are only tools we have nothing else. So if these tools lead us on a path that is not right, technically that wouldn't be our fault because these are the only tools we have, right? Okay, let's go on.
Sure. So, talking about the concept of multiple creators, if we are believing in a concept or we're thinking there is a
But
concept of...
we're jumping the
Let's
point.
not jump then.
We're jumping
Do you
the
accept that you exist?
point. I accept that I exist.
Sure. You are something and I'm something?
We are human beings.
Right.
We are, exactly, and he's a human
Right.
being. All of us are human beings.
Could there be a time in the past where there was absolute nothingness?
It could be. It could be.
Okay.
We don't know.
Okay. Let me explain to you what I mean by absolute nothingness. Absolute nothingness is the absence of everything. So there is no something. There are no senses. There is nothing within this nothingness. No energy.
But this is
No consciousness.
this is nothing you are defining, right?
I'm explaining to you.
This is nothing you are defining.
Yeah.
It could be your opinion.
Do you agree with that?
It could be a scientist's opinion.
Sure. Do you agree with my definition?
But what I'm saying, because you see, if you make a claim, I don't have to agree with it straight away. I have to look into it. I have
Look
to
into
see
it?
how the
So
things
now I'm
are.
asking you, the nothingness that I'm describing,
But the point I'm trying to explain over here is you must also take it just as an opinion and not a conclusive proof of something. It could be a different nothing. It could be a nothing.
the
a
nothing
quantum
that I'm
reality.
postulating to you in this discussion is this. It is the absence of everything.
So if this nothing does not exist, but another nothing exists where there's, let's say maybe a,
No. It's not about another nothing. Define what is another nothing.
it could be 1,000 many nothings. We
Such
don't
as,
know.
define
Okay,
each of your nothings.
let's say there's a nothing where there's space,
That's not nothing.
no time.
That's not nothing. That's something.
It could be something. It could be nothing.
That's not nothing.
You see, in,
No. Straight away I will disagree with you. That's something. It's not nothing.
there is no such thing as absolute nothing.
So the concept you understand, right?
To the concept that I understand,
Good. So that's what I'm saying. There's an absolute nothingness which cannot really exist. Is the absence of something and everything.
not everything. How would you say everything?
That nothing which doesn't exist is the absence of everything. It doesn't have anything at all.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So that nothing you understood.
But it has still something in it.
No.
That nothing still
what?
has something in
What-
it.
what does it
has
have?
quantum reality.
No, that's something. That's not nothing.
But this is how it does.
No, I'm telling you about a
see, there's a-
concept which I am asking you to consider.
There's-
Not what you're trying to put forward an argument to then
Let's go about it. There's one nothing that you presented. That's one nothing. That I
But your
presented.
nothing, I disagree, it's something.
That is
So
fine.
deal with my nothing.
That is fine. You have the right to disagree. But what I'm trying to say over here is,
Are you going to deal with my nothing?
yeah, okay, whatever that nothing that you say.
Yes. Did you understand what my concept of
You say
nothingness
there's
is?
absolute nothing over
Good.
there, not even space, not even time,
Right.
not even quantum particles.
Sure.
Okay.
So-
Let's say if there's a nothing like
Right.
yours exists.
From this nothing, can you get something?
If that nothing exists, maybe not. I don't know. This is the whole point. I don't know.
If that nothing has nothing in it, has no energy, no power, no quantum fluctuations, no hadrons, no gluons, no leptons. We're talking about absence of everything. It cannot produce anything.
Okay. You see, what you're saying now is based on your rationality, on the observations that you have seen, right? Or are you coming from a different universe?
Are you now
Are
trying to?
Are you coming from a different universe?
Hang on. Are you not trying to engage with the discussion?
I am trying to
Right.
engage with the
So
discussion.
look, the nothing that I've tried to make you conceptualize is a nothing by definition cannot make something.
Okay, the nothing that you're trying to define,
I'm not trying. I've already defined it.
what the nothing that you have defined, we don't know nothing about that nothing, right?
I just gave you what this nothing in my example is.
It could be or it could not be.
It's not about could be. I'm saying if we have a concept like this, clearly something like you and me cannot originate from that nothingness.
How would you know? This is the point.
How would I
you
know? I just told you. Because that nothing, as I've defined,
You are
cannot
putting-
produce anything.
How would you know? That's the whole point. Until you have some equation, some proof of it. That look, this nothing.
I've given you the
cannot-
proof.
How is it?
Okay. What do the rocks dream of? Do they dream of something?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You don't
but I
think so?
don't know for sure.
So you know for,
That's the whole
okay.
point.
Do you know for sure anything?
I know for sure that I exist.
Are you sure about that?
I know for sure this whole world
Are
exists
you sure about that? How are you sure?
through my senses.
Senses. But you could be a brain in a jar, having this.
Could be. Could be.
So you're not sure then? When you say could be, then you're not sure. So are you sure about anything?
Yes, this is my existence.
No, no, no. You could be a brain in a jar, or alternatively, a computer simulation. You think you're actually speaking to me in Speaker's Corner.
Well, that's the whole point. That the
How
only.
can you be sure?
Okay, I'm telling you now. That only way I can be sure is through what I experience, right? Through my senses. Through
So
my
you didn't
brain.
understand my argument.
I understood. Now let me proceed with it. Now, when through these senses, when I'm trying to make the sense of the whole world, I'm presented with our religion and another religion and another religion, right? Which have their own concept of nothingness, right? You have a concept of nothingness according to your religion where there was nothing. Maybe a Hindu has a concept of nothingness where there's Krishna and he came into being and he created everything, and there's another concept and then there's another concept. So there's not just one nothing. There could be many nothings where many gods could come in and create the universe, right? What my concern is, based on my senses, on rationality, what concept of this universe that I can make, which is good for me and for the whole universe, for the people living around me, for the universe. Not something that is just a philosophical child of somebody's mind and not good for anything in the whole world. You understand? If we go by what you are trying to do, we have seen this happen in Middle East, in Islamic world. These philosophical discussions going on throughout the history, not producing any fruitful results. But when we turn to science over here, you understand? Through this concept that let's only go by what rationale tells us.
Okay, I understand your point.
Try to make concept. If we go through this process, we can have evidence
Good.
that could be tested in India or in Afghanistan.
Just clarify one thing.
Yeah.
Are you dreaming now or awake? How do you know?
So as I said, through my senses.
Okay, I'll tell you. Have you ever had a dream? In your dream, did you really think that you are there having that experience through your senses? Were you really having the experience that you were in a beach in Hawaii or whatever, but you weren't there physically, were you?
Exactly.
So you did not physically experience any of these things. But in your dream, you were what? Deceived.
Okay.
Hang on.
That's
The
all
question.
right.
No, the question is about reality. Now you said you were sure about the reality. In your dream, you felt real, but it wasn't real.
Okay. Now,
So how are you sure that you're not dreaming right now?
okay, this is my whole point, sir. This is what I'm trying to explain to you over here. Whatever happened in the dream is not going to help me anyway.
No, that's not the point. The point is about how do we establish the reality? Because you said, our experiences. So when I gave you an example of nothingness, for some reason, I know you're an intelligent man, you realize that nothingness cannot make something like you. So you are not willing to engage with that nothingness. And instead you're putting forward. Instead you are putting forward.
You see, you are trying to ask me a question about something that you've just explained to me, that I don't know whether it exists the way you are trying to explain to me, and
I'm
then
asking you a question.
and then you're trying to put like properties to that universe or that nothingness, which we have no proof of, which you just think thought of.
When
You understand?
you say proof, do you have proof of anything?
Evidence.
No. Evidence of anything. No. I challenge you that to bring forward proof of anything for anything in this reality. Okay, now hang on. This chain, what's it made of?
Silver.
What's your proof that it's silver?
Silver goes through its atoms.
No, what's the proof
atoms
it's silver? Have you seen silver atoms?
I've read about it, I've
You've
studied
read
it,
about it, that's
and I
not
have
proof.
the properties.
Wait,
I know
wait.
the properties of silver. Silver is a metal.
Wait, you do not. Have you seen the atoms of silver?
I don't have to see it. If
So that particular chain.
you can call it gold.
No.
You can call gold silver.
Right.
It does not
Look,
matter. The name does
I
not
want
matter.
to show to you the level of evidence that you operate with. That particular piece of chain made of silver, you have not put under a chemical test to determine it's silver, have you? You've taken testimonies of other people.
Seller's word for it.
Testimonies of other people. And that counted as an evidence to you. It wasn't your experience. Do you see where we're going now? It wasn't your experience that determined the conclusion of your accepting something. Simply testimony of others led you to accept, that's fine. If I told you, I accept the testimony of people, trustworthy people, all the way going back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he received revelation from God, that we are created for a purpose and the Quran is a revelation, you would have no quarrel with me using the same standard that you're using of testimony. I don't have to experience directly seeing God.
Can I
Yeah?
now?
Do you agree or disagree?
Let me see. Now this chain, the person I bought it from, he said silver. Yeah.
Testimony.
His testimony. What I did, I came back, I tested it.
Tested it with what?
I wore it on. I wore it on,
Yeah.
right? It had a color. Let's say the color faded, it was not silver. For example, how do I know it's silver? Okay, silver is a metal. It has this properties.
Will it be platinum?
Let's say silver has this properties, right? Now when I come back on, let's say it's not silver, and I've been conned, it's a cheap metal. The color is going to go off,
Well,
right?
it's a precious metal, but not silver.
Then the guy is a moron who sold it to me for
Yeah,
cheap.
but then you are still unsure that this is silver.
But what I'm-
You've only taken by testimony, you've accepted it as enough for you
What-
to accept
But
that this is silver.
what I'm trying to say over here is, for silver, I have a standard set by some people, which me,
You didn't test.
which the whole point over here is which me and everybody in the world agrees with. You understand?
No, I don't.
Nobody tested it.
I'll tell you why I don't
So
understand.
so this is not silver.
Rajul, let me tell you what I don't understand. Your level of accepting of evidence is own experience, your senses. That's the tools. But
It is
you
not-
have accepted the words and testimonies of someone as proof. For example, have you done an image scan of your pancreas? Does it exist? Are you sure about it? What's the proof?
You can probably scan me.
No,
for
no, no.
it
It's
now.
not.
You can scan me for it now.
You see, you're saying I can prove it, but that's not the proof.
But-
This is a
wait.
hope that it exists.
So
You haven't
okay,
proven it already, have you?
Hold on. Let's not debate this point. Let's go
No, it's
by.
important.
Let's go by the testimony.
No, no, no. Let's
Let's
come
go
back
by
to
the testimony. Let's go by the
No, no.
testimony.
You know why-
For
you
a
know-
second, let's go by the testimony. You are advocating it. Let's go by it for a second.
I'm not advocating it. I'm
You
saying
see-
you accept
No,
it.
you are advocating the testimony. Let's go by it. So you say some guy said to Muhammad, right?
No, you misunderstood my argument.
Like proper.
No, you misunderstood. So I have to
Testimony.
clarify to you. You put forward the level of acceptability of proof.
Yeah.
If there's a testimony, it's sufficient.
It's
That's
not-
your level of
it's-
acceptability.
This is what I'm trying to tell you, sir. Just the testimony is not sufficient.
Okay,
You see,
what did you do for
with-
your change?
With the silver,
Yeah, what did you do?
you see, with the silver, it's just a small part of my life, right? I would spend 30 or 50 pounds to buy it. I wouldn't think much about it. But when I'm trying to spend my life,
But did you prove it's silver?
listen, when I'm trying to spend my life or when I'm trying to make sense of the whole world,
Yeah.
I have to go by something very different. That is the whole point. I would pay much more attention to the concept of the world than to a chain, right?
Did you notice one thing though?
Let's go by
We
your
are going by
definition.
principles. We are establishing the principles which we use to accept
Exactly.
proof.
Let's
right?
translate that principle there. Let's
my example of a chain
But let's
is
trans-
just a mundane example to illustrate this principle.
I'm
That's
trying,
all.
I'm trying to tell you here. Let's put that principle on another example. If somebody is born in India and he has the testimony of a pandit that his way of life is right, yeah, he goes about his way of the world thinking that this is how the world is created, right? In another part of the world, it's different. Through the same process of testimony, what you're saying, what you're trying to advocate,
I'm not
and what you're
advocating
saying, what
that.
you're saying, what you're
Can
saying.
you stop saying that, please?
Okay, listen.
Right? I am not advocating testimony here because my argument of testimony is a different way of argumentation. I just pointed that it is your argument. Testimony was what you were advocating.
This one chain does not represent the whole way of my
Okay.
perception of the world, right?
Sure.
Let me tell you something. When I'm
Before
trying
you tell me, have you seen your brain?
so again,
No,
the
no,
same thing.
no, no,
Again,
no.
the same thing with,
It's not about
with the
same thing.
pancreas, with the brain.
No, the reason why I'm saying this, I'll tell you why the reasons why. I know you want to make a point, but I'll give you the opportunity. No, what I'm saying, everything in your body, internal organs, if you haven't done imaging through CT or an X-ray or an ultrasound or an MRI or a PET scan, whatever, right? You wouldn't have seen it inside, right? Because it's inside them. You can't have X-ray vision with your own eyes. So you need these tools to see what's inside. So you go by what you call common sense that yes, I have a brain because I'm thinking, right? Or I must have a brain, I must have a liver, I must have all of this. You haven't got any solid proof that you actually have them.
have
You
another
you
way of judging?
please you assume that you do based on what?
Can I say something?
reasoning.
Very short, sir. In the beginning, did we not agree that these five senses and the brain is the only thing we have to judge between right and wrong? Did we not agree on that point?
Our question was never about right and wrong. So you've just introduced a new
And the
concept.
religion. Okay.
No.
Okay.
The question was about
delete this.
to understand the reality. This is the tools that we
one
have.
religion or another. One religion or another.
To understand the reality, this is the
One
tools that we
religion or
have.
another. Okay.
Tools, right?
This is what
Right.
we agreed on in the beginning. So I don't understand the whole circle of this coming back to the same point that these are the only tools we have to judge between one
Tools
right
that
and
we
wrong.
use, agreed. But
Between truth and false.
yeah, but tools that we agreed to understand the reality. For
I
example,
don't understand the whole point of
yeah,
this.
sure. The whole point is simple. Principles that we use of the levels of acceptability of evidence.
Those-
Because you seem to have problems in accepting, for example, God. If I were to give you a principle, the reasons why God must exist because we exist. If there was no God, there'll be nothing. And you'd say, I don't accept that. Because I need to explain to you the processes, principles.
This coming back to the previous thing. Again, it's going to be a circle because we're going to come back to this point that we have only five senses and our mind to judge between
How do you know only five
right
senses?
and wrong. I
Now
have
I'm going
no
to
other
questioning
senses.
that. No, I'm questioning that.
I have no other senses.
No,
I don't
I'm
know.
questioning. Look, I'm going to now.
You see, since I was born,
Excuse me, please.
as I said,
I actually feel like I can articulate this guy's point better. Like, am I allowed
Yeah,
to
go on.
intervene?
You are,
Well,
but
I'm gonna
when you
do
say
the work
I have
with
only
that.
five senses,
No, because I agree with you on some level. I think there has to be some level of proof, and there has to be what is acceptable in regards to what we gather as evidence.
exactly.
For example, you quantify what your level is as evidence. We may have different measurements,
Agreed.
but in this world there is a general standard that we agree for what is true and what is false.
Agreed.
Now, on the basis from what you're saying, for example, we can't see our brain, we can't see a pancreas. That means that there's, we can't prove that.
No.
Or the fact is that the fact that we can't see our own heart is purely based on reasoning. It isn't, because the difference is this can be measured in a scientific way, in a way which we can be proved. Whereas a level of, say for example, the sayings of the Prophet, for example, that is what you call via a chain of sayings in regards to what you gain as evidence. There's a difference because one can be measured and one can be seen.
Can be.
Can be. And
But the
one
question
can't
is,
be.
when you have already accepted something or rejected something, have you actually done that? You haven't. So based off, for example, some people may have taken their appendix away, right?
Yeah.
And imagine now it's this gentleman, right? He has no appendix. And he says, of course he has an appendix. You're just assuming that because everyone has an appendix. So what is the level of evidence that one needs to have to accept as an evidence?
But on that point, what I'm trying to say is, even though we may not have a strong level of evidence at the moment, it can be checked, it can be measured. Other aspects can't be, in terms of what you're saying.
The point I was trying to make is this, about how does he reject or accept the concept of multiple creators or a creator.
But it's not black and
Right.
white.
It's not about black and white question, it's about which makes sense.
Sugar.
Which makes sense, right? If we have something in existence, I said there couldn't have been a time in the past where there was absolute nothingness. Okay? And of course, Najib,
يا ديمة خير وعطاء ويمام نقاء وسخاء يا نجما شع فأبهجنا يا شعلة نور وضاء يا ديمة خير وعطاء ويمام نقاء